Hey underdogs, welcome back to Underdogs Rise, the podcast where we rise together. Our own reflections make our lives emotional. Not the events themselves or the circumstances, and not even the people that are around us, but it is the meaning that we create when we reflect upon them. Because those moments, our life only happens once. Yet in our own minds we can replay that story for hours, days, weeks, months, and even years or decades. But when something joyful happens to us, when something happens to us, when we experience love where we are seen, we don't just experience that moment. We replay it. We can often revisit that same smile, that laughter, the connections that we made. And when we choose to return to that memory, we can also choose to live in that moment again. And that same emotion lives within us. The same is also true for the challenging and difficult experience that we have also. A conversation that may be interpreted as being painful may only last a few minutes. But when we choose to reflect, those moments can last a lifetime. This isn't a weakness, this is just part of being human. Our mind is a pattern recognition machine. It's a meaning maker. And we don't just simply experience life, we interpret it through our own lenses. Think about a body of water. It could be a lake. And the water reflects anything that stands before it. The reflection itself is not the object that's standing in front of it. It shapes what we see. And our mind works exactly in the same way. Life itself presents us with new experiences. And yet our reflections themselves create the emotional landscape around those experiences. There's a story of two boys who grew up with an alcoholic father. One of the boys becomes an alcoholic himself years later. And the other boy becomes really successful. When asked by their therapist, why did you end up the way that you have? They both replied with the same response. Well, what would you do if you had a father like mine? Because two people that go through the same experience, the same event, can walk away with completely different emotions and completely different attachments to what happened. Why this happens is because their reflections are different. Whereas one may see failure, another may see learning and growth. Our reflections change the emotional experience. And this understanding can give us something incredibly valuable. We cannot control what happens, but we can control on how we reflect upon what happens. And this is what I'm choosing to do. I've interpreted so many things wrong. I have failed. And I've also made countless mistakes, and I'm going to make so many more. That's part of the human experience. And I too have spent so many years, if not decades, believing that my emotions just arrived outside of myself. But our emotions themselves, they emerge from the relationship between an event, but more importantly, the story that we tell ourselves about it. A mistake that we have experienced becomes the shame that we have wanted to avoid. And when we reflect on that shame, on that mistake, we then interpret that as being the proof that we are not enough. But then the same mistake, and when we decide to reflect on it in a different way, that can become a lesson. Because the difference is not the event, it's the lens that we decided to wear in that moment, and we have the ability to change that lens. This doesn't mean that we should force to think positively. Life is meant to contain pain, real grief, real struggle, and real loss. To healthily reflect isn't pretending that everything is wonderful. It's giving ourselves the permission just to see the whole picture. The wound and the healing. The beginning and the ending. Sometimes the most powerful reflection is simply asking yourself, what else might be true? You know, in my own life, I've interpreted things that were wrong, and yet now I see them in a different light. We can become so accustomed to being in the dark and yet when we step into the light, we are able to see things that little bit more clearly. And when we are able to do that, we create space for ourselves. The space where compassion is needed, and also understanding. And in that space, we are also able to form a new emotional experience from that same event. If you too are looking back over your life, just as I have countless times, you'll probably notice that some of our deepest growth has come from changing with the way that we actually reflected on that experience. Experiencing heartbreak may eventually reveal your actual strength. A setback may reveal your resilience. The event didn't change itself, but how you understood it did. And that new understanding came from a new emotion that you experienced in that moment. This is one of our quiet gifts we can give ourselves as being human. That we are not trapped in our first interpretation of it. That we can revisit our own reflections, and we can also soften them, to expand them and to challenge them. And sometimes completely transform them. Every reflection that we make is an opportunity for us to build a different relationship with our own experiences in our lives. So today I invite you to become more curious about your own reflections that you carry. Take the time to notice the stories that accompany your memories. And to notice what you attach to your successes and your struggles. Because they all colour our experiences and they all shape our perspectives. But more importantly, they influence how we move through our world and how we navigate our internal landscape. When we choose to bring more awareness to those reflections, that creates more freedom to discover what is within us and also what is within them. Because we may have been focused on a small part of the picture. But when we decide to see the whole thing, that can truly change our whole emotional landscape. As my mentor once shared with myself, and an event is just an event. Because it's the meaning that we give to that event which creates our emotional environment. Underdogs rise, and we rise together.